If lockdowns are instituted through a political process and the government of the day enjoys a mandate, is there any issue with the process side of things?
Well, not with the formal process, but the problem is, first of all, government messaging in many countries, I don't know about the position in New Zealand,
so why are you here?
Deliberately designed to induce conformity with the rules by, I think, exaggerating the nature of the problem, in particular by pretending that it affected everyone equally when it didn't.
Okay, first of all, that's not the case in New Zealand. We have evidence of that. I have evidence of that in the streets that I live in. When COVID first came out outside Otago University, it was look after your nana and pop. That's literally, there was big signs about COVID, about people staying inside. Look after your nana and pop. So again, I mean, he did say, I don't know how it happened here in New Zealand, but the reality is, so what? Yeah, exactly what you said. Why are you sharing what you think is the best way? Because we were constantly told from the front what population was dying, what population it was most dangerous for, who we were protecting, the elderly and the vulnerable, and we chose for most of it, whether some people hate the later lockdowns and they thought the first lockdown was good enough, but we did it in a way that best protected those people. So I think his example that he's giving from Europe doesn't relate to New Zealand at all. Because I mean, you correct me if you think I'm wrong, Chewy, I think it was very clear from the podiums that this was worst for the elderly and safest for younger people. But of course, then the younger people are the ones that could infect the elderly. That was the other thing as well. But
yeah.
Do you think that was
fair? I think our messaging around this was phenomenal. And I think to Susie Wiles and Toby Morris for their Flatten the Curve cartoon. I still remember that, about the reason that we were locking down was to squash that curve down so our healthcare systems don't get smashed, to allow people to get time to get vaccinated, to just buy us time, which is something that was just, it's the advantage of being a tiny little island country miles away from anyone, is that we could buy that time. Places like Sweden didn't have that opportunity. Britain could have, I think, if they were braver, but they didn't because they've got a horribly compromised government. But what's galling is even they brought this guy over as an expert, right? And it's very clear he's done fuck all reading on what we did and how we did things. Like he said that basically word for word 3 times already. Oh, well, I don't know about the New Zealand experience.
No, but I enjoy your wine.
Why are you here?
Yeah, like I said, if he had to come across just to tell the story of what happened in Europe, fine, no problems. But he's actively saying this was a mistake. This should have been done like this. Oh, by the way, I don't know what you did here, but it should have been done like this. So let's keep going. We've got about another minute of this to go, I think.
By pretending that it affected everyone equally when it didn't.
It didn't. We know that.
But also, the reality is that historically, every despotic regime that has ever arisen has done it through fear. And fear is the great enemy of democracy. Fear.
Yeah, we'll get to this because. So you're implying that the then government were trying to become despotic? That's what they're a despot group. That's what they were trying to do. We'll get to this at the end, Joey. But why would you mention that? You're basically saying the government of the time used fear. Every despotic government that's ever come apart started by using fear. So are you suggesting that that government was trying to become despotic at some stage? Is that what I mean, that's how I hear it, but we'll talk more about it at the end.
I will induce people voluntarily, and I accept voluntarily, to accept restrictions which, in a more balanced frame of mind, they would not accept. And that's why I think governments should be extremely careful about what they say in public. Again, Sweden was the model here. They treated people like grown-ups and not like infants who needed to be ordered around and told what to do.
So again, like there's still another 40 seconds to play.
Crack.
Yeah, but so Sweden, this is the thing, and I think I've already said it once today about the Gallipoli thing. Sweden treated people like grown-ups, his words, and not like children being told what to do. If you spoke to all those people in Sweden whose family members died, they didn't need to die if they'd done it another way, as is evidence in New Zealand. Will they be going, but at least they didn't treat us like children and we got to have our haircuts and lattes? Or would they rather be saying, I wish Granddad was still here. I wish Dad was still here. You know, I wish so-and-so was still here. I would have a sneaking suspicion that they'd probably be keener to see their family member than go, phew, at least they treated us like grown-ups and we got the chance to make bad decisions ourselves.
Is this one of the guys that thinks that traffic lights are just against freedom of movement or something like that? Like, how dare they tell me how to navigate an intersection? They're not treating me like an adult. They're telling me that I must go on the green man. I do not wish to go on the green man. I wish to go on the red man. But
I like
is my
orange.
choice. Like, it's like Sweden is not the UK, and the UK is not Sweden, and we are not the UK, and we are not Sweden. We all had different choices to make. The cheek of this guy coming in. Like, I remember Sweden going, oh yeah, we think we'll ride this out. We don't want to impinge on people's freedoms. Fine. That was a decision that they made, and they had to bear the consequences of those decisions. They have a unique set of laws. I think I saw someone mention in the chat, Sweden has laws about restricting people's movements in peacetime. They would have to change essentially a big chunk of their constitution to do it. You know, the Scandi countries, you know, they're freedom lovers, you know. So maybe that was the choice that they had to make in the framework that they had. But I remember when people started dying and you saw people going, oh, maybe this wasn't great. It's sweeping through our old folks' homes and it's completely wrecking our economy anyway. Maybe we should have done it a different way.
Yeah.
We had the chance to work that out. Sweden didn't.
Let's get the last 40 seconds.
So what might the message have been then if we were to pursue a Sweden-like approach in other countries? What would the message be?
The message, for example, in the UK would have been exactly what it actually was before we introduced a lockdown. The message was, this is a serious pathogen. It is selective in the categories of people that it makes seriously ill or kills. We have got to shelter the vulnerable, people in care homes, people over a certain age, people with certain identifiable diseases. But otherwise, the object should be to maintain life as normally as possible, because that's actually the best way of keeping people sane.
And if weighing...
So that's the offset. Yeah, that's the offset,
Sane.
right? Keeping people sane is seen by people as more important than keeping people healthy. Now, look, I want to acknowledge right now that for lockdowns and for all those things, there were some significant mental health issues that went with it. There were some people who struggled hugely with it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's two possibilities here. One is you actively look after, and I'll change the haircuts and lattes, but I'll say one is you actively look after everybody's mental health, and B is you actively look after everybody's physical health. And again, I don't think you can have both of them. Maybe you can try and find the best compromise between the two of them. New Zealand unquestionably went down the path of physical health being the top priority. And yeah, there were some mental health issues that came with that. I'm not saying that's okay, and I'm not hand waving that away. However, the idea that we need to isolate the vulnerable and the people of a certain age and the people who are in care homes, etc., who looks after those people? People who won't be isolating, people who won't be kept safe from COVID, people who will be out and about on a Friday night at a pub, picking stuff up. It doesn't work that way. They can't be isolated and then have no one in, near or around them. It actually works at the start, when we didn't know a lot, at the beginning of 2020, the best way to do it, which we actually proved when we got out of the country for a while permanently, was to isolate everybody. I mean, think about that. At no point in this conversation has he said, oh, and you guys were COVID-free for 12 months when the rest of the world had it. It kind of worked. You know, it sort of did its part. And then the vaccines came, and then the restrictions lifted. Now, I do want to mention again this despot thing, right? Because I've got that as a quote as well. Let me bring it up.
Yeah. Now, that was a common sort of thing about Jacinda, was that she was being a tyrant, a dictator, a despot. So straight away my ears pricked up when he said that.
So every despotic regime that has arisen has done it through fear. Now, we were talking earlier about what Winston Peters did with his with his tweet, and the subtle way he was laying some of the blame on the Labour government, the Prime Minister's office, as to what happened at the mosque shooting. Now, you don't say this unless you're actively saying they were attempting to be a despotic regime. Now, if that was the case, why did they remove restrictions? Why did they remove mandates? Why did they move down the path of more freedom after all those freedoms were taken away, and then allow people to get back to society? Surely a despotic regime that has arisen, has done it through fear. There's another part of that, which is, and then increased and increased and increased and increased and actually become that despotic regime, which is not what happened here. So one has to wonder, Chewy, why he even brings it up.
I don't know.